As well as I have set up one lab. Even we can even see on the production environment right now. We have implemented it, so we can go through those environment also. So to start with, second, actually getting ping from Sakya. Static IP. No. Cool. All right. So to go with today's agenda, we will first of all try to understand what are the challenges that we face in backup. Even though like we have been doing backup with different products, but what are the challenges that we have been seeing from technical aspect? We will try to go through that. What is the traditional method that we have been using for our replications and even for the backup and restore options. Obviously, the real-time issues, there are many real-time issues that we have been witnessing, and that is kind of an roadblocks that we have seen with service offering also. So we will try to go through that. Even we will see what is the capability of multi-cloud and multi-product. Uh, we will see from Zerto side, like what it does it offer to us. We know from a business availability wise, we do have RTOs and RPOs. So how it is going to get enhanced with Zerto, we'll try to check it out. Even from the application consistencies, how we are going to achieve that, we will try to see that aspect. And even the main matter is the cost, what we basically get when we have this kind of architecture. So we'll try to see the user factors, and even we will try to see that how we say that backup is not a DR. So that is always in misconceptions between within like in IT departments, like backup is a DR, but usually backup is not a DR. So we'll try to see how Zerto tackle that situations. Obviously, we will try to go with the architectural overview, the different architectures of Zerto, how it can be implemented for our service offering. We'll see these use cases. And at the very last, we will try to do some hands-on on these Zerto labs. So to start with traditional method, we've been seeing the traditional method where we have been doing the backup, where like we have been seeing that we have different sites of VMs, and the basic thing that we have been taking is the VM snapshot. And I'm not telling that this has been not adopted by multiple products. This has been going. We have seen a lot evolution that has happened from physical to virtualization and even to the SDN. But we haven't seen a lot number of developments which has happened on the backup technologies. So we have been seeing that there's a lot number of VM snapshot that we take, and we have to always have big hardwares which can be like as an like an example. If I'll try to relate as like a rubric. So in rubric, what we have been seeing, we need to maintain a big hardwares. We have to maintain the snapshotting time, and we have been seeing that there is a lot of troubles when we try to take snapshot. From a technical aspect, we have been seeing that the VM gets spun and it gets pieces, and then we try to take a snapshot of that VMs. And that is one of the basic way that we have been following with. Now, this snapshot, obviously, we are going to store anywhere, and obviously, we will have big hardwares of storage where we are going to save these datas. And that has been a major practices that we have been doing. Now, this is a common strategies that we have seen with VMware technologies, even with the cloud technologies, and even from the Hyper-V technologies. Like a VMs has been like we usually take a snapshot and we try to save these data either to some of our backup repositories for long-term retentions. And if I have to restore this one, we usually save that things on a physical storage. Now, this has been always a way by which we have been doing the backups, and sometime with the help of this backup, we also demo the DR for any customers. So this is one of the things that we have been seeing, which actually involves a lot number of uh, devices implementation. We have to maintain those devices in the data centers, and and it has been like a cost. If like it's not a cost effective, it's a cost intensive things that we have been doing in our data centers. Now, this is one of the traditional method where like we have been taking the backups. Now, these are the complexities. Complexities are the main factors which we would be seeing. Uh, as an example, if I see from a real time, if I'll take an example of restoring a file. So we have been seeing that in our team, like we always approach Balaji and we ask him that like maybe like we have to restore these files. And this is I'm talking about situations when customer has lose the data or there has been some sort of corruptions in the data, and we usually do restorations. Now, this restoration point, it totally depends when we are taking these kind of backups, right? Like, is it sometime like we take a daily backup, we try to take weekly backups, and we have those recovery points that we set it up. Now, these recoveries can be from a file levels or even from the folder levels, and we define the things on the long-term retentions. Now, whenever we try to save those things for the long-term retentions, obviously we have to maintain that infrastructures. Now, these infrastructures could be any low-level storage boxes or could be high-level storage boxes. Totally depends when we want to recover it. Now, if a customer says that I want to recover my data, like which is 2 years back or 3 years back, obviously those data we are not going to save on a high-performing storage. We would be trying to save those things on a tape libraries or any kind of a low-costing storage. As an example, maybe Glaciers, or it could be Cloudian as in services, what we use it, we can use those services for that. Now, we have been seeing mostly like we do get a lot number of requests for the DR activities, so that like a customer will get the confidence that we are able to do the disaster recovery whenever there is any kind of impact in our data center sites. So it could be in our Abu Dhabi site or could be on our Dubai site. So obviously on that services basis, we have been doing these activities. We make sure that what kind of DR that they want to do, what is the RTOs and RPO that they want to define for their applications, and and how those DR will be implemented. Because when we see any kind of DR activities, we make sure that what applications we are trying to categorize. There are some sort of critical application which will be in an active, or some of the application we have to recover in couple of hours time, or maybe some of the application we have to recover in 12 hours time. And obviously on that basis, we define the services for them. Now, this we have been doing with different products. We have been not telling that like we do have some another product, like we do have VMware site recovery. We have um, vCloud availability. These are the product that we have been using. And in fact, Rubrik side, we have been using backup as a services, and even we use it for our DIA services. So the best example I would say, last quarter we have done Expo DR, and we have actually used all three solutions with each other, depending upon what application we want to do the DRs. But the question is that, like, again, we have to tackle multiple products. Okay, every product will have their own challenges. They will have their own way of setting up the DR activities. Now, the other thing that we have been seeing is the cloud environment, right? Now, we have been seeing that cloud can be categorized by multiple methods, like maybe it is a private cloud, could be a public cloud. But when we say that it's a private cloud, again, it totally depends. Is it a VMware, or is it a Red Hat solution, or is it a Microsoft solution? Now, it's always a difficult situation to adopt a particular product, which can actually have the capability to have the recovery option on multiple clouds, right? And I'm talking about only with the private cloud. In fact, like if I take an example for VMware, in VMware, again, we do have two iterations by which we deploy any VMs, which could be on a vCenter basis, or even it could be on a vCloud Director basis. Now, most of the product companies, they will offer you a different product lines. Like maybe for vCenter, you need to use this product. For vCloud Director, you might have to use this product. Now, that has been always a difficult situation for an operation team to handle it. We need to always have dedicated engineers to understand those multiple products. And then this is as an example, I'm talking about from a private cloud. Now, even like maybe like if you remember last month, we were doing some migration activities where a customer wanted to move their VMs from our private cloud to Azure cloud. Again, in that cases, they have adopted some products, right? Which was doing the replication or doing the migrations. And every cloud has their own recommendations, I would say. So it's very difficult. I would say it's very difficult to really handle those products because they will have their own set of challenges. They will be having their own way of setting up the things. So this is again a major issue that we have been seeing in our cloud operations. Now, the another obligations that we always get is the attacks. Okay, and this is one of the major threat that we have discovered from last 3 4 years, where the ransomware attacks is very common for any customer's environment or even in a cloud environment. I'm not telling that Zerto is going to solve these issues from the like from a protection wise, but again, it's very important that whatever the data that customer does have, we have to make it possibility to recover it in a sooner time because we can't really have a window of any kind of downtime or any kind of loss of data because we have been seeing that whenever there's a ransomware attack, there's a huge amount of money that we have to get, and then we can actually get the files to be recovered. So it's always a difficult situations. In fact, like I would say, like when we were working with Expo, we came up with some sort of situation not on ransomware, but we had to recover the full file servers. So that are the like challenges that we have been seeing. So what product actually gives you all this solution? That is a part that we are going to discuss today. But again, agree with me, like these are the major challenges that we have been seeing or not. And just to make more like this sessions more interactive, I would really ask like anyone like who can actually comment on it, like whether I'm trying to tell about the truth story or not. Anyone, like maybe Rahul, you can start with. Let's make this session more interactive, right? Like these are the challenges that we have seen. Okay, maybe Rahul is not there, but we'll try to see how we can club all this product with each other, right? Like we have been doing disaster recovery, which could be on premises only, right? We have been doing backup and recovery. That is also one of the another thing. We have been doing orchestration and automations, and even the migration to the public cloud. Now, if you try to relate all these four different tasks, what are the product that we use it? Okay, so I'll try to throw this question for disaster recovery. What are the product that we use in our cloud? Anyone?
SRM.
Yes,
That's right. SRM.
SRM, vCloud Director,
That's
sorry, vCloud
Cloud availability.
availability.
correct. Now, when we talk about SRM, what is the capability and what is the disadvantage of that?
Cloud integration.
That's right. We can't do the vCloud director integration. That is not possible because that is not the capability that VMware has given to us, right? And it asks us to that, okay, adopt another product. It's difficult or not, right? Now, similarly, for backup and recovery, what are the product that we use in our cloud?
Rubric.
That's right. That is the one of the method that we have been using it. Even from VNX also, we have been doing these recovery in the past. So that is a product that we have been using it. Similarly, for orchestration and automation, what we use in our cloud.
Same SRM, right? SRM is also used.
Exactly. SRM is nothing. It's basically an orchestration tool which clubs with the storage product. Ultimately, what it does, it saves the VM kind of backup or a snapshot to the other location. So it's basically doing the copy of your VM to the destination site. But again, we have used our own inbuilt, like in-house product of orchestration that we have clubbed with backup services of Rubrik. So this was one of the script which was created by our DevOps team. So I would consider that it is mix of SRM and even some of our inbuilt tools. Now coming to the migration to the public cloud, what is a product that we have used last month? Remember? Anyone? Shashank, I think we were on that uh,
Migration on?
migration from VMware to Azure.
Okay, we site recovery manager for Azure.
Yeah,
Site recovery.
exactly.
Azure side.
Azure Site Recovery. But if it comes for AWS, we had to always adopt another product, right? Now, don't you see these all four things are more complex, four, five different products that we have to handle? Why didn't we handle these product, all this capability with a single product? And that is the basic answer that we're going to get with Zerto. So Zerto does give you the multi-product capabilities. You need not to really handle multiple products. With a single UI, you can actually handle all these processes. So obviously, the backend technologies are totally different as compared to the traditional method. In the traditional method, we usually copy the files from storage to storage. So it's basically a storage copy that we do. But over here, we will try to see in the further sessions how it does from a technical aspect. But again, this is the main pitch line what you would see with Zerto. Now, we have been seeing like the RPUs and RTUs. This is one of the committed time that we commit with our customer. And on that basis, only we offer the services like how far back we can recover your application and how easily and how much time we are going to take to recover your application. And obviously, on that basis only, we define the different tiers of application. That is it in tier 0 minus, tier 1, tier 2. It totally depends upon the customers. And obviously, any cloud provider will take a look from their products, what are the products that they have, and what is their capabilities. Like what is the RPUs and RTUs that they can commit to the customers. And obviously, on that basis, only the cost factors will come up, right? Now, usually in most of the product, we have been seeing that we define the timings, like what is the recovery time. And usually to do that things, if we would go to the traditional method, we always go and rely on snapshot, right? Like we usually take a snapshot. I'm talking about from a backup point of view, and even very similar approach is there with SRM also. So what we do, we usually take some sort of nightly backups, and we've been seeing in our cloud environment, um, Rubrik is one of the product by which we take backups on a every night basis. Even sometime, some customers they will tell that maybe I have to take a 12 hours of gap. I have to even take a backup of that. So maybe on 12 p.m. And even if I have to take another backup, so it will be obviously a incremental backup jobs that we have to run. So usually this is a lengthy recovery interval that we define in most of the product line. Now, this actually gives a trouble for some customer. Now, I would say maybe like there has been some changes at 4 a.m., right? But uh, and at like 4 a.m., right? Now, if I have to recover something which is before than 4 a.m., it's one of the time where at 12 a.m. we have to rely on. But maybe there has been some some changes which we have to recover at 2 a.m., right? And it's very difficult to really tackle those situations. So these lengthy time doesn't give you the proper RPOs, what we can commit to the customer. But obviously, I'm telling that we will have specific RPOs and we will be committing on that very time factors. But when you talk about Zerto recovery options is totally different. It basically does on a journal basis. So you can still define on a second basis, like when I want to take the recovery point. So we will be seeing that how easy it will be to recover your application at any specific time. But obviously, these things has to be included in the Zerto replication factors. At what time that you want to do, you can define the seconds time, and you need not really maintain that number of storage of that particular VMs. Like whenever you take a snapshot, you need to save that data, right? You need to save that data into specific storage. But when you talk about a journal-based recoveries or the journal ways by which you try to copy the data, you would see that we are just like we are actually saving the incremental data, whatever the data that is being writed on storage side. So this is a way how we define the journal based recovery time. And on that basis also you can mention what should be our long term retention policies. So if application is pretty critical and there has been a lot of changes, obviously we will be putting them into a journal-based recovery point. But let it be the customer is being telling that, okay, application is being done, it's like stable for a long time, there's not going to be any changes, we can put them into a long-term retention policies. So we have that flexible options by which we can define the recovery point. And that's the point that you're going to see when we will be seeing any applications. When we want to recover, you're going to get the granular seconds of recovering those applications. So you can mention that part. But question is that like whether we have to save that number of data for each and every snapshot. Answer is no, because we are not taking snapshot over here. It's basically a journal data that we are mounting on the recovery or the placeholder VMs. And the another part is incremental snapshot and the application consistencies. Now I'm talking about a situation. Let it be we have 100 number of VMs. I'm just telling a raw numbers. Now that 100 number of VMs, we don't know like which VMs are like a part of one application, because there could be 10 application and 10 VMs per application. But when we are trying to take a snapshot, we have to have a specific timing periods for that, right? Then only we can define that, okay, this application, we have taken the snapshot or any backups or the replication on that specific times. But the problem is that with snapshot, we might be having different time intervals where we will be taking the incremental snapshot. Like for an application, which is a 4-tier application, like in this picture, you'll see we have an app server, we have a web server, DB, and file servers. Now, when we are taking the backups or when we are taking the snapshot, their timings are totally different. Like one has been taken at 11 p.m. and one has been taken at 4 a.m. Now, if I have to recover this application, it won't be very consistent, right? Because maybe we have taken a snapshot of DB server at 2 a.m., but I have to recover the things which is at 9 p.m. or 11 p.m. So this will have a trouble, right? And this is one of the another major drawbacks of taking snapshot at different times. And we can't even take every snapshot at one time, right? That is also another trouble. And we have been seeing in our platform, right? Where if we try to request for all VMs application snapshot in one time, our storage, our VMware boxes is going to die. That is not possible. Now, that is the another factors which you would see with Zerto is going to be consistent. Like this time, you can mention application by application. Like this application, I want to take at 2:48 a.m. I want to take this at might be at another timing. So you can mention all specific VM in one single policies, right? Like this is one application I want to take at this time, another application on another timing. Because all VMs, we have to see from a VM level, okay, that are VMs, but from an application point of view, all VM are not same. We have to club them into their own specific categories. And that's the point where we will be seeing the consistency of application can be maintained with Zerto. Yeah, another factor is the cost of ownerships. Um, we have been seeing like whenever we go with any snapshot technology or backup technology, we have to maintain a lot number of boxes of hardwares, which includes the different licenses. We have to handle those boxes on different location. We have to define specific policies. We have to maintain the storage policies, the storage boxes. So the cost is pretty high in that cases. Now, this is, you can term it as like where we have to invest a huge amount of money for buying the product and maintaining the product. Now, this is not a very true way of telling that this is a software defined way of taking a snapshot of backups. Because we have been seeing there has been a lot number of developments. As I was telling, we have moved from hardware to virtualization, and now from virtualization, we are even going to the uh, microservices. Maybe that is Kubernetes or Docker solutions. So things has been going in a different way. Now, on that basis, also we have to see the other uh, um, the IT departments, like which is for um, business continuity, that has to also get developed, right? So in that cases, it's a true software-defined product which can do the snapshotting and backup, where you need not to really buy any kind of storage boxes. Whatever the storage that you do have, you still can going to get maintained. You can actually handle that things. Only the factor is that you just need to have the licenses. You need to deploy um, the main manager for handling and understanding the environment by which you can tell which VM you have to take as an replications. So from cost basis, the licenses is on a VM basis. Like you have to tell that how many VMs I have to get into the replication or I have to take backups. So you need not invest more amount of money on the hardware levels. Rather, you have to invest more money on the licenses as you grow in your environment. On that basis, you have to increase your licenses. So that's the main pitch line that you would see with this technology. So capex is not there. I would say capex is not more on hardware. Capex is more onto the licenses. So that's the main pitch line. So that's the part which Zerto does give you. So when you talk about Zerto cost effectiveness, the first point is that it's a continuous data protection. They call it as CDP. That is the part that I have explained in a journal way of taking the backups, or you can tell snapshot, but it's not a real snapshot. It's a very simple, scalable software-only solution. You need not to have any sort of hardware for that. It's all a software-based solution. It does give you the inbuilt orchestration, so you need not to develop any in-house orchestration. Uh, though, like you do have the option if you want to enhance or you do have a different use cases, you can still do that. The pricing is pretty straightforward. It is on a VM basis. So if you do have 200 VMs, you have to pay only for 200. You not to really buy a big hardware of storage there. As I was telling, it's a VM journal based by which you define your restoration points. So you do get that option. It's less overhead, I would say, because you would be getting a single console and you can handle multiple things. So that is the main pitch line of Zerto as in platform. Right. So the another point is the backup doesn't solve what it doesn't solve. We should not tell that backup is a disaster recovery, but again, in some situation we have been doing that. That is all like.
Abhishek,
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I ask you one question? So you said like scale up is easy and it's based on the license that we're gonna put there. How about scale down? Is it support that logic or?
Yes, it does happen because ultimately you're trying to put the licenses on what factors on the VM basis. So usually there's a minimum commit VMs that you have to do with Zerto. So usually they tell that it's minimum number of VM that you have to commit is 100 VMs. So
Okay.
that is the lowest number that you can actually get through.
Okay. So which means anything can go more than 100 and come back till 100. I mean,
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So how about the license part? So the license keys, or it's based on the reporting, or how it works in terms of licensing and cost.
That's right. That's a very nice question. When we try to replicate the VMs, okay, when we start to replicate that these are the VM that we are replicating, that VMs count will be included in the licenses. So if you have already done the replication, or maybe you have done the migration, let it be your use cases is doing the migration. If you have migrated, you can just delete that VPGs. Basically, that is the component by which we replicate it. If we delete it, again, you have 100 licenses in your bucket. So you can keep that 100 licenses for your future uses.
Okay. So at any point of time, you go to 110, and you buy extra license and apply to the solution. It
Uh,
gives.
That's right. But again, there are two kind of licenses when you talk about Zerto, like for an end customer and one for MSPs. So we come and we fall into the category of MSPs. So in that cases, there would be a different negotiation which happens with Zerto. Like if I'm going beyond of 100, what is the next level? So maybe we have to buy another 100 because we know that maybe we are going to get customer in another slot. But for enterprise customers point of view, it is on a VM basis. Like 100 is one, but if you let it be, you have increased to 110. So that 10 number of VMs you have to pay for it. So
So
usually in
this
that cases,
scale down also work in the same fashion, right?
yeah, it does
Okay.
work in that.
Okay.
So whole idea is that you have not put your full capital to do these things because it will be very ideal for a smaller MSPs or even for a smaller customer. But again, minimum commit number is 100. That is the one thing that we would be getting.
Yeah, it's still better than some of the existing buy keep kind of logic. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And see, like we have been following VMware, okay, and we see that they have come up with new capabilities, like this has been achieved or whatever. But if we compare those different solution, they really lacks a lot, I would say, like from their feasibility of designing their product and what they offer from the licenses part. So their licenses are pretty, it's not that cheaper. It's pretty hefty money that they really ask for. So yeah, from a money factor wise, yes, it has a major differences. All right, so there's something like we come up with some sort of situation like which is unplanned activity or sometime it's a planned activity. So usually like unplanned, you never ever know when your files are getting encrypted. Um, All right. Okay. So I got deviated by multiple things. I'm sorry. All right. So you never will know like when your files and folders are getting encrypted because this is one of the sad truth that we have seen across the world. And I'm not telling that as it's a protection method. It is kind of a recovery method that we can use it. Obviously, from a security point of view, ransomware tackling is totally different. But from recovery point of view, yes, it is achievable. We can do that file restorations. Obviously, like for a long-term retention policies, you do get that option where like a customer will come up, they will appear up, and they will ask that I need to recover maybe like 2 years before the data. That is also one of the opportunity that you can get it. And sometime you have to fail over to secondary side. That could be all because your data center has come up with some sort of flood or some fire activities. So yeah, these are unplanned things. But obviously with the plant, you would get some planned activities where like you have to migrate to public cloud or even to the private cloud. That is basically for testing your DR, that are the things. And even migrating to some another service provider. Ultimately, that can include your going from one MSP to the another MSPs. So yeah, that are the things that you're going to see. Now, we'll try to understand on the architecture basis. I don't want to go with sales pitch line. Okay, I'm not a sales guy. I'm an architect guy. So we should talk about technical side. But again, any question, guys? The another thing that I missed to
Uh,
put on the slide is like this. Zerto has the capability even to recover your Kubernetes now. So this has been included a year before, and the way of doing the recovery is going to be pretty same, but obviously there would be little bit differences in the architectures. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, there was a question. I'm sorry.
okay,
Like,
Abhi. So,
yeah.
uh, okay, you said it's a journal based. It's not a snapshot based, right?
Yep.
So it's going to keep track of all the block changes, or on the storage level, or how is it going to track the changes?
Okay, I'll come to that point. How it is going to do that? We'll try to discuss. I have put that another section.
Okay.
So let's hold this question. Cool. Any another further question? Cool, guys. So yeah, let's see the architectures. So I don't want to put a very difficult picture now. I want to go with easy way because if you talk about from Zerto, there are many number of terms that you will come across with. But I would like to talk about two major product right now, like two major component. Now the first very major component is ZVM. Okay. Now what is ZVM? This is basically called as Zerto Virtual Manager. You can think about that this is kind of your management plane and even it's kind of your control plane. It does have the information about your whole site. Now what like where that ZVM will be installed? ZVM, obviously we have to get it installed in your management network by which you can get it connected to your hypervisor solutions. So this hypervisor solution could be your VMware vCenter, could be your vCloud Director, even it could be your Hyper-V. So the whole idea is that your ZVM has to have a connectivity to your the management component of your hypervisors. Similarly, your ZVM has to also get it clubbed with the another ZVM. Like in this diagram, you would see there's another ZVM on the other side, which can be your secondary side or could be your DR side. Now, there should be some specific firewall rules that you have to get it allowed so that ZVM can talk to the another ZVM. If I remember, it is 9071. But again, when you go to the nitty gritty details about the firewall rules, you will get to know. So what it does actually, it actually clubs with your vCenter, gets the inventory of your different VMs, your org VDCs, if it is vCloud Director, and by which you will get to know that what are the VMs that you have to get it recovered, or you have to consider for your backup services. Now, ZVM is going to sit with your vCenter, right? But when it comes to the hypervisor, hypervisor is your like your ESXi's, okay? Or when you talk about your Hyper-V, so your the Hyper-V where it is running. So to understand the VM level replications, it has to have another component called as virtual replication appliances. So this virtual replication appliances is going to sit on each and every hypervisors. So usually to install that things, it will be going to get it done by ZVM. Okay. So every ESXi will have a VRA component because this VRA component is the main key point by which we will see how it does start to do any kind of VM-based replications. So VRA is the main component which has to talk to the another VRA, because this is the main component which is going to talk to each other, and by which the VMs are going to be replicated on the another side. So at this moment, these are the two components that you have to keep in your mind. One is ZVM, which actually connects with your management component, and VRA, which is going to sit on each and every ESXi. Now, obviously, from a networking point of view, you can make it more easy, you can make it more complex. But again, we have to see from a security point of view, because we can't put them in a single subnet and try to architect the things. So on that factors, if I try to differentiate, it has to sit on management network. But when you talk about for VRA, it has to talk on a replication network. So replication network is the most used network that you're going to see, and that does require to have a layer 2 connectivity. It's not good to go with a layer 3 connections, because if you try to include a layer 3 connections, a router will come up and actually it can degrade the performance of your applications. So I'm not telling that you can't achieve, you can still achieve, but again, it's not ideal to really put a router or a firewall on the middle of it, because VRA is the component which has to talk to the another VRA. Now, there's some another component that will come up. The another component is ZCM, and the another component is ZCC. Now, these components will have their own set of architectures. Like when we have a customer, okay, a customer, and let it be. If I'll try to make it easy. If I do have a vCloud director. Now in vCloud director, we know that we can create multiple number of org BDCs. Now, org BDC is what? It is basically different tenants, right? Now, every tenants is one customer, but to handle those customers related logins up to what number of data center that they can club with, that will be handled by ZCM. So in a very nutshell, if I talk about from a service provider, ZCM is the component by which we control customer feasibility up to where they can do the replications. Like in an example, if a customer says that I want to replicate from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, okay, I don't want to really replicate that things to Fujairah. So that will be controlled by ZCM. So we as a service provider will define those related rules. And even ZCM will also define what will be the username password, basically the basic database of login there. So that will be the work of ZCM. But whatever the backend related work will be done, that will be done by ZBM and ZCM. Sorry, VRA. So ZCM is what? It is basically a cloud manager. It's only going to be used by a service provider to maintain customers' informations. But there could be another situation. Another situation is that if a customer have their own set of environment, right? And they want to use our data center as a backup of a DR as a services. So in that cases, customer has to have a ZVM that has to be installed, because remember, to connect one site to the another site, we need to have ZVM. So we have to install ZVM on the customer side, and obviously the VRA has to get installed on each and every ESX size of the customer environment. But to connect a ZVM to the another ZVM, we have to use another component called ZCC, and that's being called as Zerto Cloud Connect. And this is going to be used when a customer want to replicate from their data center to our data center. But if it is a case there, like when we are maintaining our data center, then in that case, ZCC will be not used. It is only and only for customer connections. So in a nutshell, these are the main four major components that we have to understand. I would say ZCC will come into the pictures if a customer want to use our data center as a DR as a service. Then we will see ZCC will come as a component. Ultimately, if you will ask me, it is kind of a virtual router, nothing else, which does have the IP to IP connectivity. Now, this gives you a more feasibility from the design point of view. Like if you might have seen vCloud Director availability, there was a drawback there. The major drawback was that we can't use the private link. You have to use a public link. Now, most of the customer won't be very feasible to really replicate or do any public communication. I don't want to go with public IPs, right? I want to use some sort of private connections. And in fact, like if I do have MPLS line, I need to use our MPLS line for that. So this is going to be tackled by ZCC. So it is compatible with running the things behind of any firewall. Okay, you can do still natting and you can make that to communicate through public, or else you can still make it to be a private connections. So you have got multiple way of architecting your customers demand, and on that basis you can put these ready product on the customer basis. So to just recap, guys, always remember ZVM is the main component which will sit with each and every vCenter. Okay, so as number of vCenter you have, that number of ZVM you need to have. And ZVM has to communicate to the another ZVM. So obviously you have to have a proper firewall rules that has to be there. The another thing is VRA. VRA is the main replication appliances, which is going to be a component which is going to sit on each and every ESXi, and that's going to do the replication from one ESXi to the another ESXi, which can be in a single site or could be on a multiple sites. Then it's ZCM. ZCM is basically by which you control your customer, your tenants. And ZCC is the component by which you connect to outside customers. So these are the main component that you're going to see. We'll try to go through it, like how to install and how easy it will be to tackle these things. Any question, guys?
So yeah, Abhi, what is the protection here for data protection module? Which role handles here?
Like data protection, like from a VM point of view,
Let's
you're
say if
talking?
we compare with if we compare with any products like Vim, we'll take Vim
Mhm.
as a data service. They have a module called CDP, the continuous data protection.
Mhm.
Like it protects the virtual machine, right? Like from the like for this RTO or for the disaster strikes,
Mhm.
it is ready to from the shard state. So do you have any data protection module in this Zerto?
Yep, we do have that one. I'll put that into the next slide. All right, yeah, this is the main thing that you would will try to understand, like from the CDP point of view. So as like Rahul stated, any replication solution has the continuous data protection modules by which we make sure that whatever the snapshotting or any state that we are recording of that very VMs, that is being maintained, right? Now, as I was telling, and even the question was from Balaji, like how this things works, right? Now, as I was telling, whenever we talk about SRM solution or any another solution, what we basically do, we try to orchestrate the storage level replications. Like if a VM is there, okay, if a VM is being there, what we try to do, we try to make a copy of that VM. We know that VM does have different set of file sets, right? And the same file set we try to copy on the destination physical storage. And that's the work which SRM does. Now, what again, like when it comes to recovering that particular VMs, what SRM does, it will try to see on the target side and it will see that very files are being present. So what it does, it tries to mount that VMs on the related ESXi or the vSphere. And that very VMs are being like it's kind of a powered on your DR side. And you try to shut it down on the main side. That's the way how things works out there. So usually what happens, like it's a physical storage copying that happens from physical storage to the another physical storage. And SRM is just nothing, it is just doing the orchestrations there. But now when you talk about Zerto, this replication is on a journal basis. Now, what does it mean there is like an example, if I'm taking a VM, right? Now, this VM obviously is going to sit on a specific host. It will have their own set of data store, right? And this data store will be the main component where all the data are going to be copied, which could be the VM related data or even the whatever the like application related data, which will be in a block basis. But what does VRA does? VRA basically gets integrated um, with the host levels. Basically, it try to integrate with the driver of ESXi, or it could be Hyper-V. And what it does, whatever the write data, what happens from ESXi to the data store, that are the data which is being copied on VRA. Okay, so all that, like in a very nutshell, if I'll say, whatever the writes which happens on the data store, the same duplicate copy happens on the VRA. Now, what this VRA will do, as he knows about that this VM, we need to replicate on the destination side, he does send that write data to the another VRA. Where is the destination side? Now, this is basically VRA is going to talk to the another VRA, and whatever the write instructions which is being sent to the data store, that is being copied from one VRA to the another VRA. Now, what does this VRA does? Now, VRA is going to create, like you can say that um, uh, a Zerto-based VMs. Okay, and this Zerto-based VMs will keep on writing that data at every point, like whatever the checkpoint that you have created. So let it be like at 1 second, whatever the data that has been write over here, the same data will be written on the other destination side. Let it be after 2 seconds, there's another write. Again, the same write will be created over here. So on each every point, the checkpoints will be created on the Zerto defined placeholder. And that is the main changes what you would see from a software defined replications to the storage defined replications. So actually what happens, we are not basically copying any physical storage to the another physical storage. We are basically copying the journals of the VMs and the write data which is happening on the storage. We are copying that things and we are recording that things to the Zerto defined VMs. And this is the main changes what you would see from the previous technologies and in the Zerto's based technologies. So
Uh,
if, yeah,
so is it synchronous replication or asynchronous?
it's a synchronous.
Okay.
So that's the way how things work. So in this cases, we're not taking snapshot, right? We're not like taking a snapshot. We are basically getting clubbed with the vSphere levels. We are copying that data and that we are actually saving on the placeholder on the destination site. Now, in this cases, it's not like only one destination site you can define. Even you can define the same site itself. So when you try to copy that things to the another site, that is basically a DR activity that you're trying to do. But when you're trying to save on the same site, that is basically you're taking a backup of it. So with the same thing, you're trying to achieve two different things.
Abhishek,
Uh,
I know there is going to be a lot of questions. Let's see.
okay. So you said it's synchronous replication, right? So let's say in synchronous replication, typically if the secondary site, the target site is not responding, so it's not going to it's going to hold on the VRA on the primary site until secondary site is available, or is it going to truncate the old
That's
data?
That's right. But again, you would see when you would go to ZVM, we do have the alerting mechanism. So let it be you have created a VPG. Basically, all this VM will be under a VPG module. Nothing, it's just a naming convention. So
Right.
you would get that alerting there, like, okay, there's not a synchronization and we are not matching the RPOs, what has been committed. So you'll get that alerts.
But where do you store the checkpoints? And like you said, let's say you're doing tracking the changes every minute. Okay.
Mhm.
So where do you change? Because obviously to track all these changes and store these changes, you need storage, right? You can't do without storage, right?
See,
You need.
exactly. See, like if you try to look out to this picture, okay, in this picture, the major differences is that whatever the physical storage that I'm using to handle my VMs, I'm actually using the same physical storage. I don't have any committed another storage, just like how we have with Rubrik. Like we need to maintain another storage boxes only to take snapshot, right?
But it still
So
needs storage, right? If you want to,
it does,
like, yeah,
it
if
does require.
let's say you have high transaction database like Oracle or SAP HANA or MySQL Server, okay, it need it's going to write a lot of data. So if you keep track all these changes, it's going to need huge storage because you're going to track every minute. Let's say.
Maybe like my statement might be not totally right. Like when I have started, like it doesn't require any storage. What I mean to say that it won't require a dedicated storage. Dedicated storage like what we see with Rubrik as an example, if I say, and you need not to have any kind of proxy server so to handle that snapshot data. But yes, if you ask me, like whatever the physical storage that you use for the VM based things, it's the same thing that you have to use it. Only the thing is that you have to maintain that storage there, like on the
Yeah,
destination
still
side.
need a storage
Absolutely.
because if you keep tracking of changes of every minute, it's going to need a huge uh, your storage cost will increase considerably, in my opinion. Okay, anyway, thanks for
But
clarity.
yeah, no worries.
Hey Abhishek, this is Fu here. I maybe I misheard you. I think this is using VRA, right?
Yeah.
It's should it be asynchronous replication instead of synchronous?
It should be synchronous. Like it's not like a asynchronous or like it is being called as a near synchronous. Like if you'll see in the terms, um, they usually don't tell that it's a asynchronous or synchronous. It's a near synchronous. It's kind of a mid of that.
Uh, Actually, the definition might be a little bit tricky there. From what I read, it should be actually synchronous. Sorry, it should be asynchronous
It's-
because synchronous actually means the write happened exactly at the same time from both sides. So, but we can discuss later. But yeah,
Yeah, maybe
that's,
maybe like I need to even I'm learning also on this partly. Yeah, maybe like
yeah,
from a
okay,
term
no problem,
wise.
no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, Abhishek.
Hmm.
So we, as you said, we have two scenarios here. One is DR and one is backup, right? So if you are keep on writing something like this, I mean, I'm just thinking about a scenario. For example, your primary site got a ransomware attack. Okay, if you keep on writing the same changes on the disk that happen on site A to site B, which means even if you fail over to the DR site, you will have the same ransomware content on the same second disk, and it will also get encrypted. Yeah. So is there any way you can actually roll back to a specific timing, or something like, because what I'm thinking is, do you have
That
the
that's
same
that's
mechanism?
a nice question, Krishna. Yes, you can do, and that's why we have a term called checkpoints. So we know that maybe at 12 o'clock we have got ransomware attack, but
Mhm.
at 11:55 we knew that we were able to access our file. So you can actually define that 11:55. Yes, I want to go to that timing. So we can do that things.
All right. So I have another question, like, but if this is the way we does it, I mean, we need to keep the same IP address schemes in primary and DR and those sort of things, right?
Yep.
So that is a I don't say limitation, but it is a statement that we have to make before considering this
Actually,
style of application.
exactly, because from security, anyhow, that protection has to be defined on the outer layers. And we are over here talking about how we are trying to recover what we has been encrypted. But if that same IP will be going to come up, like, and that is the cases, right? Because you're not going to make the changes on your file server in one day, or like when you got the ransomware attack. So obviously, that outer layer protection you have to provide from security layers. So obviously, like investigation, we need to do how ransomware attack happened. Is it some firewall rules that got opened? So we need to protect that and then better it to recover it.
All right, and I know that some of the previous products, that is something similar to this, like the successor of not successor, like the previous version of Carbonate. that need to have a image, like for example a Windows image or something, to be installed, and this agents does the and we don't need any sort of agent or any sort of image or anything to be installed on the destination side, right? So it will all be taken care by the VRA.
That's right. There's nothing like a
Okay.
like a agent you have to install on the VM.
Okay, in that case, I have one quick question. Like this. I know that it is talking more about the block-based, data copying or replication. Does it have anything to do with, for example, when you consider backup, there are two type of backups. One is like the snapshot-based and the application-aware. So does it have any functionality to, or anything to maintain the states of application awareness?
It does have that application awareness. Like when you talk about we want to take a database backup or maybe a file server backup, yes, it does have that capability.
So
So Avi, like,
you need to install any sort of agents, or how it
See,
happens?
I have done the POC on the VM levels, okay? But there are some labs which I'm yet to do, which will do those application await related snaps or like backups. Okay?
Yeah, because
Uh,
in
yeah.
application aware backups, it actually queries the queries from from the VSS writers, and and so which means like when there is nothing to be returned from the RAM to the disk, and it stops that, and then it take the backup. That's what the application awareness. So
But
here
as yeah,
you,
as
and that has to be done in the OS level. But here, in order to do the backup, should you have to provide any information about the, like any credential of the
no,
source
no,
machine? No. So I
no,
think
no.
this is a block, and if this is a block based one, will it will it work? Like will it be an
See,
application aware one?
as far as I know, we don't want to actually get integrated with any application. Like you need not to go and log into the application and try to pull out the data from there. As far as I know, I'm sorry, but I'm yet to test that. Maybe we can test that particular part.
Yeah, because that will be uh, a, a kind of critical one, because as AD, maybe this exchange stuff, DBs, these kind of things need a application consistent backup. Otherwise, you will get everything there, but when you try to reboot at the second site, it may crash. Yeah, so
That's a nice question, and in fact, we have seen that capabilities with this product line. You get that options there. Maybe like I'll walk you through when we will go to the lab. I'll show you that particular options there. But frankly speaking, I have not tested that part.
But as per the data sheet from Zerto, they are they can do entire application database or individual files recovery, Krishna. Like it is consistent, and you can do the granular level recovery also.
okay, so
Yeah.
for this kind of things now, so there should be an agent, or some sort of access towards my basically my question is, I'm not
Krishna, as far as
suspecting. Yeah,
as far as I know, this is the first. Like this is one thing which I've like seen. Like it's agentless. This is not an agent-based thing. We need not to install any sort of agent.
correct. That's why the question came in. Like if you don't need any agent, or if you don't need any sort of access to the OS, okay, to do this backup, that it is like application unaware backup. It's block based backup. Otherwise, you need to have the access to the OS, guest OS, to know like what is happening, and then either using your VMware tools or something, you have to query the queries from VSS to the VSS writers, so that all the pending requests will be returned to the disk, and it will stop, and then you can take a backup. Yeah, I'm just asking. We can test it, as you said.
Yeah, we can test it because as far as the use cases that we got, it was basically the VM or the multi-cloud things were like in our mind. But yeah, application related recovery, probably we can test it. We do have the product now installed, so
Yeah, this
wow.
kind of one similar scenario that I have gone in one of my previous experience, that when we did the testing in lab, it works, because at the lab time we did not have that much load on the source machine, like that many transactions on the source machine. And when we try to do the one of the real migration, the application actually crashed. And when we checked with the vendor and all, they said like it is like some extra things has to be tuned and has to be done. Yeah, we can
Okay,
check it, bro.
cool.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Yeah, I'm short with the time, guys. So because we do have lab also, which we have installed. So yeah, I'll go quickly on this one. The use cases is first of all is the instant VM restore. That is one of the use cases, and that can be done on the related sites only. Similarly, file and folder restore. That is also one of the use cases for ransomware attacks. DR and test failovers, as I was explaining, yes, that is also another use cases, and even for the long-term retention policies that you want to mention. So basically, you can even save it on another cloud storage. In fact, on the previous version, like the one that Zerto has got an update, they do have the integration with Cloudian. So in fact, we can use our Cloudian for these purposes also. But it depends. Yeah. Now, the main use cases is migration from any to any. Yes, you can do. If you have any workloads on Azure, AWS, IBM Cloud, or VMware, or Azure, or sorry, Hyper-V, which is on-prem or in public cloud, you can migrate it anywhere. So you need not to have another product for doing this kind of migration. But again, for Azure and AWS, obviously the component name is going to be a little bit different. In ZVM, there we call it as ZVA. But again, that is not our use case at this moment. But again, we know that we have a major amount of business now on Azure, by which we can integrate and we can have the visibility of moving the VM of any customer from any cloud. And that gives you the multi-cloud capabilities. So if let it be the customer want to go to Azure for a month, you can go and take experience. If you want to come back, yes, you do have that options. The another major use cases which we would be using for Zerto is NSX-V to T migrations. So you might be knowing that we have been discussing a lot on NSX related architectures, as we are doing a lot number of changes in the architectures. We are moving here and there, like from one VCD to the another VCD. We have another vSphere. So yes, we do have a lot number of use cases there. So this is one of the major use cases for which we are going to use Zerto. And in fact, disaster as a services for any customer. So if a customer want to use our data center as our disaster recovery, we can use that as well. So that is one thing which we would be coming on in the coming future. Now, this is the last picture that we should always remember about Zerto. Okay, I'm not marketing, but again, this is one thing which I always remember so that I can know the features of Zerto. So it's orchestration automation, multi-cloud, workload mobility, and non-disruptive. And as we were telling, it's a CDP based, so it's always on replication, journal based recovery, application consistency grouping that you can do. And yes, you do have long-term retentions. All right, so let's go to the lab. Okay, this lab, what I'm going to use is through my Zerto account. In fact, you can also open your Zerto account. It's freeware, and there you will get the videos by which you can learn about the technologies. And in fact, you will get the hands-on lab to do those things. One thing that I missed, guys, I think I've mentioned or not, like you can even do the Kubernetes recoveries also with the help of Zerto. So that is a new capability that has been bring. Okay, so I believe my lab is available now. Yes. So this lab, let me launch it. So it's a good one. I would say, like if you might have experience with VMware labs, that is actual lab. It's a very similar um, outlook that you would get. Cool. So you have different sets of lab, guys. I would say this is one of the getting started lab, but you do have options like if you want to check it out, Azure migration, you want to check on Kubernetes recovery. Right now we are in 9.0 version, 8.5 is the older version. In fact, like in our production, we have installed 8.5. We would plan to upgrade it to 9.0. 9.0 will give you the capability of integrating with Cloudian. That is one of the other target thing that we are planning for coming days. Cool. So, and it is converging your DR and backup. This is also another lab. But today I'm going to talk about more on to installation, like how we will be doing the installation. So it's a good overview. Yesterday night I was going through it, and I feel that it is a very good lab environment that you can go with your hands-on practices. So let me first of all go and log into the lab. Obviously the basic thing. Let me just make it complete. All right. The first and foremost thing, we need to understand the environment very well. This is the environment right now. One is being called as a production site and one is called as a DR site. So the DR site, they have already installed ZVM. They have already installed the VRA. Um, and they do have the WAN link already being established between each other. Now, the one that we have to do today, we have to install the ZVM and then we will be installing the VRA. So yeah, let's go with that. So basically to do, first of all, let's try to see our sites. So this is one of our site and this is our DR site. So yeah, if you remember the old method of accessing your VMware, I still love this one, I would say. And obviously, like when we go for any kind of upgrades, we need to make sure that we have the compatibility matrix. So if you would see this vSphere, this is in 6.0 version, okay? At 7.0 version, I believe it doesn't support this thick type. I'm not 100% sure how we can make it zoomed. Let me just make it cool. So this is our DR site. In DR site, we do have a couple of ESXIs. We do have the vSphere that has been installed. And there's already a ZVM DR that has been named as, that has been installed, and with the VRA that has got installed. So if I take a look on the networking layer, I believe it's very straightforward one. If I go to the networking, it's a single uplink and everything has been connected to the management network. So the management network is 222.0/24. And the VRA has been also installed on the same network. So that's the VRA. Now let's try to access the main site. Main site is this one. So 111.1.2. So just keep in mind that 111 is the site 1 and 222 is site 2. There are some application which has been deployed over here. But when you talk about ZVM, this is in the production. This is nothing. It's just a Windows box right now. So when you talk about ZVM, it gets installed on a Windows boxes. And to get access to that, you just go back to, I'm sorry, let me stop presenting. My bad, I'm just going to share my screen once again. Yeah, so all right, these are the two sites. Cool. Now to go to the production ZVM is right now nothing. It is just a Windows box right now. Cool. That's the VM box at this moment. Now this we have to convert as in ZVM boxes. So we have the installer file, and obviously the installer file you can download from zerto.com also. And nothing, you have to just go with installations of it. Now there are two ways of installing it. One is the express installation and one is the detailed installation. Now in express, probably you would get the option of connecting your vCenter. But if you have a vCloud director that you have to get it installed, you need to go with a detailed manner of installation. So yeah, this is the web outlook that you want to get. And it's going to tell us about what is Zerto software, what are the different components which is being present. And let me put next. Accept it. Next. It's telling that we need to have a VRA. all that files that is going to get installed. So this is two things: express installation and custom installation. So let's go with the express installation. I need to define what vCenter connections. So what is my vCenter IP? Let me define that. Remember that we are doing installation in the main site. Guys, let me know if you're not able to understand, okay? Square.local. Let me define the password. Zerto123. And you can define the site name. You can define site name as anything like site production. Prod. Hit next. Hit next. It will form the connectivity to your vCenter. Make sure that you have the admin credential, or maybe you can create a service account. All right, back. Let me go and check it out. So small. Administrator. All right, the password was wrong. Okay, let me run it. It's going to take 5 minutes to get it installed, guys. Let's try to see when it gets installed. And the similar approach we have even used when we had installed in our production environment. So what it does when you go back to vCenter, you'll see it is going to contact your vCenter, and obviously it's going to pull out all the related inventories. And then he will get to know about all this application like CRM as an application, ERP, and the related file servers. We'll see some of the recent tasks that will come up. It doesn't take much time. In fact, like if you face any trouble, just like install it once again, because ultimately this box is doing what? It is not doing the replication. It is basically a management component. All right, so if it is getting installed, let's meanwhile try to see. Let's try to go through the lab. Boxes, it's basically installation, ZVM installation. We'll try to complete it. The next part is the very important part, where we would see about the ZVM, how we are going to license it. Now, as you know that the other site has been already being installed. So let's try to take a look on that site, how ZVM looks like. So 1 second. Let me go to that site. So this is the first site which will come up after some time. Let's try to access the DR site, which has been already got installed by ZVM. Okay, so first of all, let's try to go through this web GUI. What are the different components which you would see? So when you go to ZVM, the main 3 components or 4 components you will see on the left-hand corner is the dashboards. On the dashboards, you will find out different sets of components. Like the first one is the VPGs. So VPGs, you can say it's kind of a container where you will be putting the VMs. So in a real world, we will try to replicate what application. So in the under one application, how many VMs are there? You can categorize that things. So let it be a customer is there. He want to have application one. So and in under application one, you do have 5 VMs. You can actually put that under one VPGs. Similarly, right now we are not replicating anything on the VM, so count is 0. How many we are protected? Compression, you can in fact like you can define the compression factors also, and what is the RPO that we are achieving. So that is the information that you can get. So at this moment, everything looks blank because we have not paired the sites with each other, and in fact we have not started any kind of replications. The on the top, you would see there's kind of a pop-up task that you would come up through where you will see what are the tasks that is being running. Similarly, you would see the different components about it, like what about the site? Site is okay, or is it some like having some trouble? You can even troubleshoot that. You have the option to do the site settings. So in site setting, you can define the name and other things. You can define the throttling factors. You can even have some specific policies for recovery options. You can even write on your own related scripts. You can even define some workload automation, basically for the VRA deploymentations. That is one of the good use cases. And remember, like VRA is going to get installed where on each every ESXi. So we have been seeing that whenever a new ESXi comes up, how we will make sure that the VRA deploymentation happens automatically. We need not to do that things manually. So that you can still do over here. Very similar like your webs update, what happens. Similarly, SMTP integrations, you can define the reportings, you can define reports every day basis, you can get that options. What is the compatibility? Obviously, you take a look always on the interoperability of the matrix, to which different components it has the compatibility. You'll not get the vCenter and vCloud Director, but again, it is good to always go and follow the documentations. Cloud settings where you will get the VCD integration. At this moment, we have not done the VCD integration in this lab, but in our lab, in our production, we do have the VCD integrations. Then it is a long-term settings. What is the indexing repositories that you want to mention? So you can mention the related um, the Amazon storage or cloud, and you can mention those repositories availability. So that you will see on the cloud sites side. Now, what are the sites right now? How many sites we have clubbed with? We don't have any sites right now, right? If you do have sites, then you will get to know. If you do have Azure, you will get to know. If you have Amazon sites, you will see those options. VPGs, as I was telling, it's a container of the application VMs. How many VMs? Nothing. Right now, nothing is there. You'll see the monitoring app. In fact, like how many alerts, what are the events which is happening, and what is task is being running. Long-term retention that you can mention as a policy. You can pull out the reports also. And this is another good feature from Zerto Analytics. Like as one very good question that Balaji had, like it is going to still use the storage, but what is the storage number that we should have in your DR side? So you can actually use this analytics for that. So it will calculate if you do have these VMs, what is the storage that you need to have on the destination side. So that is also one of the good analytics features that you can use it. And the another thing is the setups. In this setups, ZVM, as you know that it has clubbed with your vCenter. vCenter will give you the inventory of ESXi's, and ESXi's will have the VRA. So this VRA has been already installed, which we will be doing in the site number 1. So in fact, this is all what you see in ZVM. Easy, crisp, and very clear. Now, if you do have any VMs, what you want to do, you want to do failover, you want to restore, or you want to move it. So when you talk about restoration, are you going to do the restoration of your files, or is it a VM? You want to move your VM, that is also an option, basically VPG movement that you want to do. And similarly, whether you want to failover live, or you want to just do the testing, just like how you do in SRM the testing. Let's try to go to site number 1. Like if you newly install the things, you should see that 969 should be the main login page. Let me try to log in. All right, so now what we get? We got an option where you have to define your licenses. Even though you install it, you need to have licenses, then only you can go to the next step. Now, question will be that I didn't got any kind of license options over here, right? I got things because it has been licensed. So there are two ways of licensing it. One is you can go to the license factor and you can put your licenses. Okay, that is one of the options. The another set of option is that if one site has already got the licenses, I just need to come up as another site. I need to just club with that, right? Because you would be running the show with one single licenses. You're not going to have multiple sets of licenses for each and every ZBM. So that's why you have another question like options. If I'm creating it very first time, then I will define I have a licenses, then I will put that. And that is a factor that has been done on the DR side. Or else you can have a licensing server. So this is another feature that Zerto came with. Like you can have a central licenses server by which you can get it connected. You can pull out the licenses and you can maintain a single point of licensing factors. But now I want to pair with a site which does already have the licenses, right? So I do have that option to do that. So in fact, for doing that, you just need to go to sites, generate the pairing token. That's it. Just copy that. Note the IP addresses 192.168.222.20 and define the token. So what you need to make it sure, you need to have the ports open across the sites. That's it. So let's try to see if it gets connected. Done. It got the licenses. Let's try to see on the DR side whether we got the sites. Voila, we got the site that has come up over here. So this site has been paired with vCenter. That's why you will see the site platform type as a vCenter. But if it has been paired with vCloud Director or Hyper-V, AWS, Azure, or Kubernetes, you will see the site platform type will get changed. Done. Now, what is the next thing after ZVM installation? Any idea, guys?
The replication VM, like array.
That's right. So if I have already paired with vCenters, first of all, let's try to see whether the sites has come up. Yes. So each and every sites are able to see every sites, right? Now we'll go to the next topic where we will be installing the ZRA. Basically, I always say ZRA, but it's a VRA. Now I have to install VRA. That is the important component. Now this VRA installation is very straightforward. You just have to define the things on the cluster level basis. As I was telling, you can mention on the automation factors also, like if you go to site settings, workload automation, VRA deploymentation. So enable VRA auto installation once host is added to the cluster. And this is one thing which is required, right? Otherwise, we just need to go and again manually define that things. So what I'll do, let me just, I don't know the full information of the IP addresses. I'll just see what IP address that I have to put there. Install VRA. So in VRA, we need to mention an IP address like 21. Okay, so it's telling 22 and 32. You can define it any way, but that's fine. So ultimately, the whole idea is that the VRA should talk to the another VRA. So in fact, we can do with multiple ways. You can just check it out the IP addresses. Let me try to install it. Sorry, like I didn't note down the IP address. Is it on the same subnet? I believe it should be in the same subnet. Triple one, yeah. All right, so that's on the cluster basis. Obviously, it's a VM, ultimately, VRA. Which network? I'm telling VM network, and define the IP pool. So I can define 192.168.1.21. And define 22, and define the gateway. Gateway is 254. All right, just install that. So what you would see, if you go to the main site, you'll see the VRA will start to get installed over here. And in fact, like today morning, we installed it on our HRC resource cluster. So when you will take a look on HRC resource cluster, you would see that VRA would have been installed there. Now we got the installation error. Now, what could be the factors? Let's try to see. Is it some sort of duplications? It might be. I'm not 100% sure. 168, 111, 21. Okay. You can still install it. All right, so it's telling some failures. Now, what is that failure? Is it the gateway I'm not setting rightly? 111, 22. Okay. It might be something on the IP. Let me just define the IP rightly. Let me define 22. No worries. So we'll try to I'll define 23. Install it.
Abhishek,
Mhm.
can it? I think you can check on that use credentials.
Oh
The
yeah,
check
we'll see
mark
that.
number.
Mhm.
Is it trying to create a VM through vCenter or directly on the ESX?
So like it
Because
will go through vCenter because it will send the queries to the vCenter, and vCenter will install that things to the ESX side.
yeah, but it has to be local, right? I mean, it should be residing always on that host, right? I mean, it does not need any sort of what do you call vMotion or stuff like that.
No. Because it's going to sit on each and every ESX side. Might be doing
Yeah. So
some
if that's the case, okay, we just continue. Maybe.
into the following networking. That is good. It's telling static. Okay, just let me go through. Okay, local DS. Fair enough. Data store. Full screen. Actually, the data store was wrong. All right, so this will get installed. And then we'll see. So let it get installed because this component is very important. Again, it's getting failured. Uh-huh. Okay. Actually, I have defined the things on the cluster level.
Yeah, Abhishek. Abhishek.
Yep.
If you see that, it says the credential to connect to the host. I believe it is trying to not to the vCenter. It tried to connect to the individual hosts to install it.
Actually, it happens on the host level only. I'm not denying that. But it would be the same.
It connects to the vCenter to get the metadata of the cluster and the host associated. Then it tried to connect to the host directly, right? Maybe you can try that.
Okay.
Select that. Yeah.
No. This is actually no. This is different thing. This is actually different part. Actually, let me just make it as 22, 23. So it has to get installed in local TS. Good. Oh, maybe what I've done, I should have not. Okay, so let me cancel it. Okay, so if I talk about that host password, let me see the host password. What is that? Let me see whether we do have putty. Yesterday I've installed, there wasn't any kind of trouble. Okay. We need to define these things. In fact,
Can we check what is the error coming in vCenter? It says the error from there, right?
yeah, let's try to see. Yesterday I was getting a lot errors in our data center because of we had some troubles there. It is not giving us proper details. Okay. Let's try to see config, networking. Is good. This should be the VM network. And let's try to see IP address 22, or let me just say 24, 5, 5 to 5.0. Okay, so no worries. We'll try to see in storage. What is storage mounted? FreeNAS. This is fine. I have thing. It's good. Let me do one thing. Let me just reboot this ZVM.
Abhi, it's okay. If it is taking some time, we can proceed with this. We can do this lab later. It's with us only, right? No customers and all.
Yeah, but again, it was working yesterday. But yeah, in fact, like what we can do, we can check it out our existing environment. So that would be also the way to see how things works out there. So today we started to replicate one of the VMs. So let's try to see that VM. All right, so this is one of our ZVM. Let's try to see how we add any VMs there. Okay, let's get it logged in and then we'll see. You're not in mute, bro.
You're audible, though.
Okay. So now we have got the fresh this guy. Let's try to do this one once again. Okay, so let's try to install it this time manually. So it should be, let me see what has been defined as an instruction. It has told FreeNAS. Okay, 24, 111, 254. Let's try to install it. Let's see if it gets error once again. Yeah, there's some trouble. What is 2, 111. Okay, maybe there's some trouble in this lab, guys. But yesterday I have installed it. It worked fine. There wasn't any kind of trouble there. But what I'll do, let's try to see in our production environment how things looks out there. So embarrassing, right? It doesn't work. Good. Now, in this cases, we have one of the VM where like if you will see the sites, this is one of three sites that we have. Like one is like our POC lab, one is the KCA site, and one is our new V center of HRC. So three sites have been up over here. We'll see the VPGs. This is one of the VPGs. So VPG creation is pretty easy. You have to go and create a VPGs. VPG is nothing. It is basically the container where you will be putting the VMs. So you can define any name, like maybe customer one is customer one. Hit next. And as I was telling, as you have integrated your V apps, basically your vCloud director. So the V apps you can actually move from one point to the another point. So you do have the option of vCenter VMs also, as well as standalone VMs. So how you have your VMs created, on that basis you can move that things. So in this cases, it's basically SRM and vCloud availability, both of the functionality that you're getting. So in this case, whatever the VApps that we have, you can move from here to the other location, like maybe Portal UAT. I want to move. So I will put next. Recovery side. What would be the recovery side? I want to move into new data center of HRC. And to what level? VCD. So in VCD, what you need to have? You need to have the Z org that you need to create. This is basically you have to create from ZCM levels, by which you will tell that which organization it is a part of. Let it be like I'm just going to attach it to the test organization. Okay, and what will be the org BDCs? So you're just telling about the placeholder of your org BDCs, and there that very VApps is going to get appeared up. So maybe like this is one of the org BDCs that we have created for the testing purpose. You can hit next. Then you would be telling that these are the VMs that you wanted to move. And this is one of the data that I was trying to. So in fact, like I have to also go through it. This is temp data. I believe this is for the database, but I need to still research on this part. If you have any MSQL database, then you have to click on that. Then obviously at next, you need to tell about, do you want to copy some NAT rules? But again, this is not the functionality that you can do right now, because in that cases, it should get integrated with your network level configs. But what you have to do, you have to tell about the test network and what should be the original state network. So if you have on the destination side network created, in fact, this is the one thing that we will be doing in B2T migrations, where you can have a test network where you can test the VM feasibility. And the next one is the real destination network, which we need to create it previously. So I'm telling, okay, it's telling, okay, you have to choose a network. So maybe I'm just choosing any network. Hit next. Let me just put. Actually, this was not chosen that. Okay. And next, then you have to tell about the NIC level configuration if you want to change something. But in fact, like when we will be doing any kind of DR, it can happen, it cannot happen. You can define that things. It next, you can define the long-term retentions. Right now, we don't have any profiling that we have added there. It next. Okay, so it will tell us about the long-term retention. So these are the VM size. So probably total VM provision size is 1.5 terabyte. And if you hit next, done, what would happen? Zorg errors with, okay. Well, actually, I've just used an arbitrary Zorg name. But yeah, I want to save any. So what you would see, the VPGs will try to create. So it will try to create it on from HRC01 to our site. So this is the creation of that very VPGs, and then the VM will start to get replicated. So yeah, we can create in that way. And in fact, we created the documentations so that we can actually do the V to T migrations, like for different environments. So for that very purposes, if you would see, this is SMB need configuration. What is that? It is telling us edit the VPGs. I think the similar configuration recovery point. We haven't mentioned that. That's why it is telling as an error. Hit next. Yeah. So this is one testing which Shashank was doing, and the VM has been replicated. So if you will take a look onto the VM, how things looks out. So let me just log into the new vCenter. So that's our new vCenter where we like that kind of like our destination site. And when you will take a look, this is that very cluster where we have chosen like basically the org VDCs where it has been created. And if we will take a look, this is that very placeholder VM that I was talking about. So basically the VRA will do the storage rights on these very VMs. So this is kind of your placeholder of your replications. So when we are replicating it, you would see the VM will be created in such manner, like what I'm trying to replicate it. So in fact, right now you will see another two of the VMs which has been created. And in fact, this is all because we started to create over here. So that is a VM that is being created over here on the stock. So now what happens when on the source, if you're doing any changes, VRA is going to make sure that this VM does have all the recovery points. So this is the point where we tell that it's a journal based replication which happens. In fact, you can actually do changes on your journals. Basically, you can create the checkpoints. Right now, it is updating, so it might be taking some time. But yeah, you can have the option to pause it. You can edit your VPGs as far as like what the activity that you want to do. So it got created. Let's see how long it will take. So around like 288 GB files that has been copied right now. Basically, the journals has been copied on the placeholder of the VMs. So in fact, that was for I think 7, 8 VMs. So one by one, it is going to get created. Now it's a one-time process, and then whenever the changes which is happening on the application levels, all that things will be shown out there. Like all that factors will be defined there. So guys, any question on this part? How to create and how to define that things. In fact, on the monitoring wise, you can monitor how things are working, what's happening. You can check it out that. So in fact, like for 10, 15 VMs, basically we have seen around 1.5 terabyte files. It started to copy and doesn't take more than like 10, 15 minutes. It will be fair enough, like the numbers. So this got created, it got added. Now you can define your checkpoints. You can create your checkpoints. And while doing the recovery, basically when I want to failover, maybe I want to test the failover. So it's doing the delta syncs. So it's actually we have made the changes though. That's why like it's making some changes there. So if I want to, it's not going to allow me right now. But yeah, guys, I will highly recommend go through this Zerto. You create your account, and when you go to the account, you would get two access. Basically, first of all, the video access, where you can go through the technological videos, go through it, get the understanding. You have to appear for the examination, and you can actually get the free certification. So this is the free certification that you're going to get. That's a Zerto certified associate level that you're going to get. You have some another learning materials, like if you want to learn something on Kubernetes, uh, like in Zerto, how we do that, some webinars. So you do have like a lot number of things there. So yeah, that's all from my end. Any question? I would be pleased to answer any question. But yeah, this let it go on. So it's going to take around 47 minutes. So it's a bit wide right now. It all depends on the vSphere process also. Cool. So that's the end.
Abhishek,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
have one question, one last question. Like, in terms of any, DR activity, real DR stuff had happened, okay? Or think like, one of the application got crashed in primary and, you already have the secondary application running the secondary DR side. And think like, after 1 hour or something, somebody maybe might have started the primary side application, so primary side stuff. So what will happen at that time?
It all depends like what method that you use to do the DR. There are two methods. One is test and one is the real DR. Okay. The third method is like movement, like you want to move the VM itself. So
Yeah.
usually what happens? This is the option that you're going to get. Like I want to do a failover. So testing is what? Testing is that VM will appear up there on the destination side. You have to mention the test network, like as I was showing in the option there. That will be an isolated network. That could be one of the options. But in this cases, VM will be still up on your source side. So you're not doing anything there. But if I'm doing a failover live, what happens? The VM will appear on the destination side, right? On the source side, the VM is going to get shut down because you're trying to do the live failover testing. But if I'm trying to do a movement, this is basically the migrations that you're doing. So in migration, what happens? You move the VM, but still for the security or like for maybe like coming back, you'll keep that VMs on the source side. But if you have successfully done that things, you will get another option whether you want to delete the journal copying or not. So when you do that things on the source side, the VM will get deleted. But in fact, it is going to be shut down there. But your question is that whether we can switch it on. I don't believe you can do that.
Okay, switch it on, or can we reverse the copy, or maybe like
It can
your
be done.
DR?
Reversing is possible because that's the option
Fine,
that you're going to get with
fine,
the
fine.
fail.
That's all. That's
Cool, guys. All right. Any another question? I might have explained very well or very bad. That's why I'm not getting questions.
Maybe you can ask questions, Avi.
Okay. Should I? Cool.
Yeah.
No worries. We'll see. Actually, it's all like first of all, like you can go to the testing examination. Go and test yourself, right? It's a good way to really judge yourself whether you have learned it or not properly. Yeah, I would say go with that. But I think I've asked a lot of questions, guys. I think 4-5 questions I've asked during the session.
Then select one winner.
I think Krishna asked a lot of questions.
Krishna is a winner.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what you gonna give to Krishna then?
Krishna, what I can give? I don't know.
You should give something to winner.
You're a manager, bro. You're conducting these sessions, so you should be doing the voluntary over it. Right.
I should be doing voluntary. Yeah. Okay, Krishna. On that note, you are going to get free voucher for Zerto certification.
Yes.